live from Mountainside, New Jersey, because we're a traveling podcast. My name is Vinny. I'm an alcoholic and an addict.
And I'm Sam. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. And today we have Anthony Justo.
Hey, guys.
How's it going, brother?
It's going good, man.
I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to come be with us. I connected with Anthony probably like 4 months ago. I remember I made a call to him over the summertime looking to get somebody some help. He was more than accommodating. And initially, I feel like for my life today, when I talk to another man in recovery, I can always instantly kind of vibe with them, like when our values align. Like he's a man of God, he's a father, he's a husband, and that's where his priorities lie. And that's somebody that I like to align myself with. So like I instantly kind of felt attracted to him, to the way that he lives. It was just one of those things that clicked right away. I knew he'd be a perfect guest on the podcast because I know you got a great story, brother. So I appreciate you coming out.
Definitely.
Taking time out of your day to be with us here at this small office on the side of a highway in Mountainside, New Jersey, as the sun beats down in your face. And I'm honestly excited because I don't really know a lot about your story. I feel like a lot of guests we have on are people I've known for like the better half of 10 years, and I could fucking probably tell their story better than they could. I'm like, oh, you forgot about this. But like with you, it's kind of a mystery to me. So, and I like that, you know, I'm one that likes to get to know somebody while we're actively on this platform. So I want you to share with me as much as you're comfortable with. So us and, you know, our listeners can get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. I appreciate you guys making the trek to come up here.
Of course, buddy.
You know, this is a beautiful space we're in. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. And yeah, I mean, you know, there's definitely a certain affinity that I've come to know for guys that are kind of doing the deal, right?
Yeah.
And it's so funny, man, hearing somebody describe me as a man of God, right? Because like that was not the way that people looked at me for a lot of years, right?
I hear you.
And you know, like I'll just dive right in and start to talk about kind of what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And
Sure.
you know, for me, like thinking back to my early days, far before I picked up a drink or a drug, you know, there was all of you, and then there was me, right? Everywhere that I went. And no matter how long I may have known somebody, I seemingly could not connect to them, you know? And I remember, I was talking about this recently with somebody. I remember a Christmas gathering when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old. And I'm surrounded by family members, people that I've known my whole life. And I thought to myself how strange this is, because I feel like a total outsider, and I've known these people my whole life, right? And that feeling of disconnect kind of just followed me everywhere I went, you know? And for me, a big part of my recovery is connection, right? And my sobriety has a lot to do with my connection with my higher power, which seemingly works a lot through others, right? And I
Absolutely.
kind of always tell how close I am to God by how close I am to you.
Yeah,
right?
by the way I interact with others. I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like looking back, that was probably one of the telltale signs that like, hey, maybe something's off here. And you know, how do you identify that, right? Like it's not a physical manifestation. There's no real way to look at that other than a spiritual malady, but you just don't know what you don't know, right? And to me, that's the only life I had known, and kind of went through life like that. And when I was young, man, my mom and my dad had some difficulties, you know, and
With you or with each other?
With each other.
Okay.
Right. And they had some substance use going on themselves. And my mom ended up kicking my dad out of the house. And she was like, you know, the reason why your dad's not here is because he doesn't love you guys.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So she told my sisters and I, like, you know, you guys aren't worthy, essentially, was the message that was being conveyed, right?
Dude, you know what's so funny? I find so many other alcoholics and addicts are a product of a resentful divorce.
Yeah.
Or a resentful split. Like a resentful split breeds this disease in
Absolutely.
us from such an early age, because I also am somewhat a product of that. You know what I mean? Not that I've shared before on the podcast, but like that is a commonality that we see across the board. Parents got split up. They tried to play me against each other. I felt very alone in the process and proceeded to walk my own path of destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely some literature too that's pretty clear as to like when we're born, right? Mom and dad are essentially God, right? Because without my parents, I die.
Yeah, for
Literally,
sure.
right? Like if they don't feed me, they don't clothe me, I die, right? And so as I'm growing up, if mom and dad aren't giving me enough time and attention, right? There's two possibilities here that I'm perceiving as even a baby would. Either the gods, quote unquote, mom and dad, are crazy and there's something wrong with them. They're not providing for me. Or the second and more likely is there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not worthy. That's why they're not giving me the time and attention.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of us develop, at least for myself, like an intrinsic unworthiness, right? Or worthlessness. And for me personally, I don't believe that makes me alcoholic, right? Like what makes me alcoholic in my experience is what's on page 44 of the big book, right? Like when I start drinking, I can't control the amount I take. And when I stop, I can't stay stopped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think all this stuff definitely accelerates it though. You know?
110%. I mean, as of late, especially through doing the podcast, have come to think that my alcoholism, because I haven't had a drink in 10 years, almost 10 years, it isn't really defined by the way I drink. It's defined by my character defects, which have been with me well before I ever took a drink.
For sure.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
But when you took that drink, you soothed those character
So
defects.
defects.
So that's why when you look on page 44, like you said, you drink because you are an alcoholic because when you start, you can't stop. And when you stop, you can't stay stopped. So take it the day before. What made you start? And that you couldn't stop. It was probably, and I'm not speaking for anybody, but it was probably to soothe what was going on inside you like it was for me. And then that's why I always say on a lot of these podcasts, I had a love affair with alcohol because as soon as I started to drink, I felt normal
Yeah.
like everyone else.
Well,
and then, of course, you can't stop. But the first few beers, I mean, I just felt like normal, bro. I mean,
well, it fixes the problem I never knew that I had, right?
Yeah, it fills the
Exactly.
void, dude.
Yeah, I
it
mean,
fills
exactly.
the gaping void.
It becomes the solution to the problem I wasn't even aware of, you know? So, yeah, my mom and my dad, they split, right? And I'm under the illusion that dad left because of me, right? And I'm self-centered in every way. So, like, of course, it had to be about me, right? And my dad leaves, and my sisters and I are with my mom, and my mom got wrapped up in a pretty big sting operation, one of the bigger ones that happened in Morris County.
No way.
Yeah, it was a 56, if I'm not mistaken, a 56-person sting operation. A lot of cocaine trafficking was going on, and so
how old were you then?
probably around 8 or 9.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I'm pretty young, and we were told that mom was going to school for a while, right? And mom went to school a lot thereafter, but
Yeah.
this is kind of where it all starts. And my sisters and I bounce around a little bit. Eventually, we're placed with my grandparents who live in Morristown, and I'm kind of finding my way there, settling in, going to a new school, and everywhere I went, it was all of you, and then there was me, and I'm kind of trying to make my way into these classrooms, find a place where I fit. And for me, athletics was one area where I felt like I kind of fit in, right? Like I was reasonably good at football. I played basketball, and that was one area where I was somewhat comfortable, and I kind of just gravitated towards all of that. And then maybe a year or two later, my dad had applied for custody of my sisters and I, and he was awarded custody, and my sisters and I were kind of transplanted from Morristown with my grandparents to my father's house, who was living in Brick in Ocean County.
Yeah. Different place.
Well, it's much different, right? But also, more importantly, my sisters and I, up until this point, think that dad doesn't like us,
Exactly.
right? So, like, you're putting us with the monster,
Yeah.
essentially.
You didn't want to go. Even
I'm
at
scared
that
to
young
death.
age, you looked at your grandparents and you said, please don't make me go.
I cried the whole way.
Yeah.
I cried. It was like an hour and a half drive. I cried the whole way. It felt like a lifetime. Like you're putting me with the monster, right? Like,
But you never let anybody know that. right? Or did you?
Oh no, I was like, dude, I don't want to go.
But I mean, did you let them know that I don't want to go because Dad doesn't like us?
Yeah, no, I couldn't even verbalize that.
That's
like,
what I thought. Okay.
I was emotionally, 9 years old or whatever.
Yeah,
it was.
all he knows is this is comfortable and this is uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
And so I get put down with my father and Brick, and he had remarried, and I feel like a lot of the time with step parents, it's kind of always uncomfortable to say the least. With
Definitely.
us, it was very uncomfortable. My stepmother was she was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and like she was a little bit more hands-on. We'll call it.
Definitely.
And so I just wasn't a real big receiver of the way that she treated us, and I wasn't super stoked about the way things were going. But I still didn't pick up a drink or a drug, right? And I kind of knew that drinking and drugging wasn't the way, because I kind of saw in a roundabout way what happened with my mom, and I was like, I probably shouldn't do that,
Yeah.
right? And then we'll fast forward a little bit, and or you know what? There is one story that I do want to tell, and this story is something that I wrote an amends on that made me cry with a little bit of time in recovery, I have one of my younger sisters is severely autistic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get put into this new school. I'm down in Brick with my dad, and my sister and her class are walking towards my class in the hallway, and we're about to pass. And a bunch of the kids in my class start to make fun of my sister's class for being special needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're calling them nasty words and doing what kids do. And I got this feeling in the pit of my stomach, like I got to tell them to stop, right? Because what they're doing is wrong, and they're causing harm to my sister and her friends. And that feeling was quickly supplanted by the feeling of I want to be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did I not tell them to stop, but I actually joined in and made fun of my sister and her classmates, right? Because that's how bad I wanted that connection.
Yeah.
And that, again, like it just underscores how bad I felt and disconnected I felt all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And I was willing to go to any lengths to overcome this disconnection problem.
To feel accepted.
Yeah. And we'll kind of, we'll get into that, but
Well, you probably didn't realize this till doing work much later, huh?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
You just don't know
You
what
just
you don't
knew
know.
the feeling that you wanted. That's all.
Yeah. And so then, we'll fast forward to the time I'm like 13, give or take, and I'm skateboarding across a street in Brick, and I'm going to my buddy's house to have a sleepover. It's a Friday night. And if you're on a skateboard, you don't necessarily look straight ahead. You kind of look to whatever side you're riding, right? And I'm in the crosswalk, and it's a red light to the oncoming traffic. And I'm skateboarding across the crosswalk, and I hear my buddy Tyler. And I look back to see what he's yelling about. And as I'm looking back towards him, there's headlights coming at me. Right?
Oh, wow.
And so I end up getting hit. Ironically enough, it was a drunk driver. I get hit by a drunk driver. She was driving, talking to somebody in the back seat of her car. Didn't realize anybody was in the road or that it was a red light, so she didn't even hit the brake. She hit me, and the cop's estimate was that she was going about 40.
Oh, God.
So she ends up hitting me, and she keeps going, and I broke all the bones in both legs from the kneecap down.
Wow.
And I flew back, 30 somewhat feet, and I fell and hit my head, and I ended up pretty much instantly going into a coma. And my buddy Tyler pulls me out of the road, and he calls 911. He gets a partial license plate, whatever. So I get airlifted from Brick to Jersey Shore Trauma Center in Neptune, and they put me back together. And I wake up like a week and a half later from this coma, and I look down, and my legs are in multiple pieces, right? Like you could put your hand through my legs, like my scars are still there. You can see very clearly where they did the work. And the doctor comes in and tells me it's a miracle that I'm alive, right? And it was truly a miracle that I'm alive, right? but I can't ever see the good in anything, right? The glass is half empty type of guy,
Yeah.
right? Like there's no miracle here, right? There's just resentment, fear, indignant. Like I'm just angry immediately because I look down and like, look how unfair this is.
Yeah.
Right.
Poor me.
Yeah. Poor me. Right?
Yeah.
And so I do my little time in the hospital. Thankfully, I was able to be sent to a specialized hospital to learn how to walk again. It was like a physical therapy rehab. I'm there. I learn how to walk again. And you know, there's this 9-year-old kid in the room with me. His name was Nathan. And Nathan had like 6 open heart surgeries.
Wow.
He's 9 years old, right? And every time I would be in the room with this kid, he would be smiling, saying things like, aren't we so lucky to be alive? Like, isn't God so good? You know, like our family's here. Look how lucky we are, you know?
How about that?
And I
9-year-old.
can't see it.
You can't even fathom what that feels like.
I'm just like so angry and you know, upset that this happened to me and life is so unfair. Like I can never see the good in anything, you know, and that's something that later on I was able to identify. My perspective is always off. You know what I mean? It's always pessimistic. It's always negative.
It's always about me.
And it's always about me.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm so self-absorbed. This kid's about to die. Like they gave him 6 months to live and he's got a smile on his face. And I'm just worried about self all the time, you know?
Of course.
So I get released from the rehab. I'm using a walker to get around. And I was just defeated, man. You know, like I can't play football anymore. I can't skateboard anymore. My only outlets are gone. That was the only area where I felt somewhat accepted.
How old are you at this point?
I'm 13 now.
13, yeah.
Right? And right around here is, you know, is a common age where people start to like steal weed from their older brother or steal liquor from their
that's
parents.
the beginning.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's what happens. You know, some of the kids in my class start to steal weed. And I remember they're like, yo, we're going to go into the woods and we're going to smoke, you know. We're going to take that 5-mile walk into the woods so nobody sees us, right?
Yeah.
And
you were like, sign me up.
Yeah. So I go with these kids and I'm using a walker to get into the woods. So ridiculous, right? And we get out there, and at last, man, he pulls out the bag, and it's mostly sticks and seeds. There was probably no THC involved. You know what I mean?
Dude, that's that brick weed.
Yeah, yeah.
That's if you didn't listen.
That's straight reg,
all,
right?
We all smoked that weed the first time. Yeah.
And I don't even think I got high, but what did happen was I felt like I was at the right place with the right people at the right time.
Yeah, because you were a part of something again.
I fit.
Yeah.
I finally fit in, right?
Yeah.
And that was magic, man. And, you know, shortly thereafter, I drank for the first time and I had this beer, man. And, you know, like even from a beer, I got that warm feeling in my stomach that kind of lights you up from the inside.
And your neck, dude.
Yeah. And it's just like, as that feeling takes hold, all of my problems are melting off of me, right?
Of course.
And I decided in that moment that like alcohol was probably the best thing that I had ever experienced and that I was going to do this as often as possible, you know?
We had arrived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely had arrived, and alcohol definitely did for me what I could not do for myself, right? And in short order, it became my higher power.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go to any lengths to do this.
An
you
obsession.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was hooked, man. And I started drinking as regularly as I could at the age of 13. By the age of 14, things are taking a turn. You know, it's getting a little out of hand. By 15, my dad is like, listen, Anthony, he said, stop drinking or get out of the house.
Yeah.
And what I heard was get out of the house.
Right.
Because not drinking isn't an option. I can't even hear that, right?
Yeah.
So I get kicked out of the house, quote unquote, right? And that's what I told everybody because now I have another excuse for drinking, you know? And I leave the house, and then shortly thereafter, I get kicked out of high school. I was in 10th grade. I was probably 16. I got kicked out of Brick High because I was just out of control. You know, I was bringing e-pills into the school and just doing reckless stuff.
You were rolling at school?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I never did that.
Yeah.
I did eat Xanax a lot at school, but which basically just wipes the school day off the entire calendar. But I never rolled at school.
Xanax wasn't super popular for me at that time.
Yeah.
But e-pills definitely were.
One time we all decided to eat mushrooms before school because I had a friend who lived right by the school, and none of us went to school.
What could
we
go
just
wrong?
sat in his parents' basement until like 4 o'clock hit and left. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you know, I ended up getting kicked out of school, and that was that, you know, and I was kind of happy about that. And we'll fast forward a little bit. By the time I'm 18, I got a check from the structured settlement that I had received from the car accident.
From getting hit by a car.
Yeah. So I got the first installment of this settlement, and it was like a check for $60,000. And I'm 18, and I was dead broke my whole life growing up, right?
Buddy.
Yeah.
That's
And this was 2008, which was like, you know, one of the bigger recessions that have ever hit the country,
course,
right?
Yeah.
So nobody really had money, and like I just get all this money, and I'm just living recklessly. I got a townhouse down in Silverton. I'm living on the water.
You bought a house?
No, I was renting a
you
place
rented a
on the
house.
water. I had jet skis in my backyard because it's on the water. I bought a Cadillac. I bought an 86 Monte Carlo SS with I rebuilt the engine, had a street bike. I'm dating a girl that was featured in Playboy.
Dude.
I had arrived,
That
right?
money
Like,
bought you a lot.
Well, it was gone in 3 months.
yeah.
wasn't it?
Well, no, actually. So I started growing weed in the closets.
That was my
right?
next question. I was like, did you become a drug dealer?
Yeah.
That's literally what I was going to ask.
absolutely became a drug dealer, right?
Yeah.
And I'm doing all right at this little townhouse. And I get a call from my mom, who I hadn't spoken to in a while. And she's like, hey, how's everything going? I'm like, good, what's up? Like, what do you want?
Right.
And she's like, yeah, I heard you got a place. You got a townhouse? And I was like, yeah. She's like, can I come stay with you? And I'm like, no. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I have these prescriptions for Oxycontin 80s, Roxy 30s, and Xanax.
That's so crazy that you got that call from your mom and it becomes transactional like that.
Well, and so as soon as she says that, I'm like, where are you at now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll come pick you up right now. And so my mom moves in with me, and, you know, we had our arrangement where she helped me out with some of her prescriptions. And so I went from having like 60 grand in the bank to like 120 grand, like within a few months.
Oh,
Right?
you were selling the prescriptions.
Yeah, because I don't, you know, I'm not a junkie.
Right.
I don't get high.
course.
Right?
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
smoke weed and drink and do ecstasy, but I
Yeah.
don't do pills.
Right.
And so then one fateful day, I had a really bad hangover, and one of my buddies, who essentially just wanted some of this pill for free, is like, dude, I know how to cure that hangover. All you have to do is crush up this Oxy 80, and if you sniff half of it and give me the other half, you'll definitely feel better.
Yeah.
And I was like, you think so? He's like, yeah, dude, for sure. Just, you know, he just wanted the other half of the pill.
Of
right?
course he did. He got you good too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I sniff half an 80, immediately start projectile vomiting.
I was
It's
gonna
the first
say-
opiate that I've ever done.
I was going to say that's a lot for
That
your
is
first
a
time.
lot for
Yeah.
a first use.
Oh, dude, I'm sweating profusely. I'm like slumped over in the corner. And I was like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
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 This is why people pay $100 a pill for these things, right?
correct.
Like, yeah, I'm into it. And that 100 grand in the bank went pretty quick after that. You
I'm
know?
sure it did,
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah. I got evicted from my apartment, from the townhouse, and you know, I started robbing people in the neighborhood to feed this opiate addiction that I just developed. And so I did what any thug does, you know, I called grandma and asked if I could live with her, you
Yeah,
know, like
bail you out,
that was the
yeah.
only reasonable thing to do at that
And that
point.
seems like, that seems like your safe place.
Yeah. So I
Your
go back to
grandparents.
grandma, you know, and kind of fast forward a little bit. People then introduced me to heroin, which is a lot cheaper alternative than Oxycontin. And I was taking the train to Newark from Morristown every day, multiple times a day. And so that was fine. And going over there, I developed even more of a habit. And one day I'm walking in Morristown, and there's a PNC Bank on Madison Avenue in Morristown, and there used to be an ATM outside of the bank. Like, you didn't have to go into the bank to use the ATM. You could just walk up to it from the parking lot. And I saw this guy taking money out of the ATM, and I decided that I needed the money more than he did, right? And I run up to him, I take the money out of his hand, and I try to run away, and he doesn't let go. So as I'm running, he's falling, and he falls and kind of like hits his head on the curb and starts bleeding. And so it becomes a whole thing, and I end up getting away, and turns out banks have a lot of cameras, and I have a mask on. Yeah.
Particularly by the ATM.
And you forgot your mask.
Yeah. So the cops found me a few hours later. They come and kick grandma's door down, you know.
Oh, they knew it was you. Yeah.
Yeah. I had some scrapes with the law previously, so they knew exactly who I was.
Yeah.
And they come and they kick grandma's door down. And it turns out the gentleman who I robbed said that I had a gun.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And so
Which
now,
you didn't?
I did not, no. But if somebody says that you do, right, you're getting charged with like the highest charge that they can charge
Armed
you
robbery,
with, right? Like I understand why they do that. So I got charged with the first-degree armed robbery. I'm 20 years old. I'm up on the maximum security unit up in Morris County Jail. And my roommate is somebody who was later convicted of having his wife killed by his mistress, right? And
good guy.
and I'm like, man, you know, this really took a turn for the worse pretty quickly. You know, maybe I shouldn't do those pills anymore. And so I decide right then and there that if I ever get out of here, I should just go back to drinking and smoking weed like a normal person. You know?
Right.
Well, what was the sentence?
Well, no, I didn't get sentenced.
Oh.
Right. So I sat there and I was fighting my charges for a while.
Okay.
And I had a $100,000 bail. And I don't know if you guys can relate to this at all, but if you give me enough time, I can come up with a pretty good plan, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
or like,
right? And I can talk you into anything, right?
of course, yeah.
So I call Grandma, and I'm like, Grandma, you got to get me out of here. She's like, Anthony, your bail's $100,000.
What
I don't have
10 grand, right?
Something like that, and you put the house up as collateral, right? So Grandma puts the house up as collateral for my bail, right? And I tell her I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to do this again, right? And so the day that I get out, I go to the liquor store to celebrate, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And within 2 weeks, I was rearrested. And I had committed a second strong arm robbery charge at the Rite Aid in Morristown. And again, like, you know, if anybody's listening, you know, theft becomes robbery if you use force.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, during the theft.
Yeah,
right?
theft is the misdemeanor.
The line
Robbery
is
is the felony.
The line is not gray.
Yeah. It's very clear, actually.
It's very clear, yeah.
So I get rearrested, and, you know, funny enough, though, the night before I got rearrested, I'm down. There's this little section in Morristown where there's like, you know, what's considered the projects, if you want to call it that. Like, they're not real projects, but it's, you know, whatever. There's some housing units down there, right? And I'm in this crack house. It's a unit over there, and I'm smoking crack, and I just, you know, I can't figure out how this happened again, right? And I remember laying on this floor and asking God for the madness to stop, right? And what I really meant was, let me have enough drugs to either overdose or just like live out my days where I don't have to do any crazy stuff anymore. And so the next day I get up to try to steal from Rite Aid, and I end up getting arrested, and God delivered for me, right? Because the madness stopped. Right?
Absolutely.
And I get put into jail again, and they give me a no bail order, right? They're like, you're a menace to society. And they're right. You know, I can't argue with them. We got to figure out your situation before you hit the streets again. I'm like, okay, fair enough. And so I also have a pretty slick mouth, especially when I'm detoxing, right? Because I don't feel good. So I just say some wild stuff to people. And I'm in the jail, and they're walking me up the staircase, and the cop told me to keep my mouth shut. And I told him some 4-letter words about himself, right?
Nice.
Yeah, and they put me in solitary confinement. And I'm in the hole, and my public defender comes to see me, and he's like, the prosecutor's office has a deal that they want to extend. I'm like, okay, well, what's the deal? He's like, they're willing to offer you 15 years with an 85% stipulation, right?
Wow.
I'm 22 now, right? I got locked up October 8, 2013. My sobriety date is October 9, 2013, right? This is probably like October 20th. I'm still kicking, still going through it, right? And I sent the public defender on his way. I was like, I would never sign something like that. Like, get out of here. I end up going back into the unit and trying to call grandma. And I got rearrested. And, you know, I don't know if you guys have ever known this experience, but I think it's the most silly shit ever when you're in jail and they arrest you, like cuff you and everything, bring you downstairs, give you the new charges, process you again, and then bring you. It's like, guys, I was already in the hole in jail. You're going to have to bring me downstairs to let me know that I'm, you know.
Fingerprint you
right,
again.
yeah. It's like, guys, come on.
Again,
Yeah.
Right.
You know exactly where I am. But in any event, I was like, what are these charges for? And they're like, this is because you violated a restraining order. Your grandma now has a restraining order on you.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what do you mean? Because grandma's the one person that was always there.
Yeah.
Right? And now that's gone. Right? So I go up to my cell. And I mean, you guys see me, like, I was 128 pounds when I was locked up, right?
Yeah.
Totally emaciated. And I go up to the cell. I'm not eating, and I'm going through it. Got alcohol, DTs, and I realized in that moment that even if they were to release me free and clear and drop all my charges, even if my family was to welcome me back with open arms, I realized that I would drink and get high again. Because as many times as I really, really wanted to stop, I seemingly never could, right? And so looking back, that's my step one experience. I didn't know that at the time, right? It's a big part of my step one experience. But at the time, I thought it was a death sentence, right? So what I decided was that I was going to kill myself.
In jail.
Yeah, right there. So I started tying up the sheets, and I hooked up a noose and started to tie it around the sprinkler system, which is on the wall, like close to the ceiling. And I was going to hang myself in solitary confinement, right? Not because of the prison, not because of the family stuff, just because I knew that I was like a slave to alcohol.
Yeah.
Right? I knew that this was real, that I'm the real deal alcoholic drug addict. And as I was tying the sheets up, one of the CO comes over and he knocks super hard on my door. And I don't know if it was delirium tremens. I don't know if it was a white light experience. I like to think that it was a spiritual experience, the first of many. But in that moment, I decided if I surrendered, everything was going to be okay. And that conviction came over me.
Well, did the CO say something to you?
He just like knocked super hard on this metal door. And it kind of just like snapped me out of it.
Right.
Oh, so he never opened the door? Or
Never
anything?
opened
You had
the
no
door.
interaction with him outside of the
dude,
knock.
he just...
Right.
Like
Wow.
really hard on this metal door, you know? And so I ended up sitting in jail for a while. And eventually I fought a bunch of my charges, got the first degree knocked down to a second degree. And I meet with my public defender one last time, and he says, listen, he says, they're willing to offer you 6 years. And if you sign this today, they'll let you argue for Morris County Drug Court at your sentencing, but it'll be up to the judge's discretion, right? And I look at him, he's like, Anthony, it's not going to get any better than this.
Yeah.
Sign the deal. He was like, your maximum exposure is over 30 years if you take all these to trial and lose, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I'll sign the deal. So I signed the deal. I end up going to sentencing. And, you know, I'm sitting downstairs in the bullpen waiting to go up to the courtroom. My public defender comes down. He's like, listen, the victim from the bank robbery case is here and he's going to speak. I said, what does that mean?
Oh, man.
He's
from the first
Could
one.
go either way.
yeah. He's like, well, let's just say, like, anytime the victim of a violent crime is present, the judge usually has to make an example of you, right? I'm like, all right, fair enough. So I go up and I kind of say my piece and, you know, argue for drug court, right? Prosecutor says his piece why I shouldn't get drug court. And then the judge asked the victim to stand up and give his impact statement, right? And he starts to say, like, I can never use an ATM without the fear of being viciously assaulted. anytime my family has to go to the bank, I'm afraid that they might not make it home. And he starts to say all these things that are absolutely true, right? Like I have no rebuttal, right? And I'm about to get smoked. You know, they're going to put me underneath the jail, and I probably deserve it, right? And then out of nowhere, just like that, he says, but, Your Honor, he says, I'm a chaplain in the New Jersey State Prison System.
Oh,
and he
wow.
said, if there's any chance that the drug court program could help this young man, please afford him the opportunity.
Wow.
I mean, this guy's the walking, talking embodiment of grace in the flesh.
You robbed a chaplain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the chaplain saved your life.
It came
Oh
back
my
and
God.
showed up
Yeah.
for me.
Wow.
Right? Like, and so I don't know like whose jaw hit the floor first, mine or the judge, right? And the judge looks at me and he says, let me put this in terms you'll understand. He's like, under no circumstances was I going to give you drug court today. Only at the victim's request am I going to give you the shot, right? So he gives me drug court, and I kind of never look back, right?
Well, how long did you end up staying in jail?
So I went away October 8th, 2013 for the last time, and I came home in March 2015,
Okay.
right?
So a couple of years you
year
did?
and a half, give
Year,
and take.
yeah,
okay,
year and
okay.
3/4, yeah.
Something
give or
like
take.
that. Like so, but I end up going down to a facility in Atlantic City, which was like full of guys that were either on parole or drug court.
Yeah,
right?
one of the facilities where everyone just came from jail. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a wild experience, but I learned a lot there. And I went from there to another facility in Patterson. It was a halfway house, right? And here's the thing, though, right? This becomes part of my story is I'm crazier when I don't have a drink or a drug and no program.
Yeah, when you have no solution.
I have
Yeah.
no solution,
Yeah,
right?
of
And I'm
course.
just dry knuckling it,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Or white knuckling it. And so I go to this place in Patterson, and I get into kind of a little fling with the director of the halfway house.
It's a girl?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So
nice.
That doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Having a woman in charge of a men's
Male halfway house? Definitely not.
Wow.
so we, whatever. We ended up doing whatever we did, right? And she ended up leaving that job, and I ended up getting terminated from the program.
Why?
So when you
You got caught doing
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So actually what happened is another counselor caught us, reported us.
Right.
And then she was like, yeah, he made lewd and inappropriate comments to me.
Oh my God.
Right.
Turned
Because
it
she's
all
trying
on
to
you.
save her career.
Sure.
Which, whatever, it's fair. I get it. You know what I mean? And they are going to believe her. She's staff, right? She's the director of the place. So I ended up getting sent back to jail because when you get terminated from a program, that's a violation, of drug court,
yeah,
right?
Right.
So I get violated. I do a couple more months. They send me back down to the place in Atlantic City for a second time to work on my behaviors. And at that time, I'm talking to people and it's becoming clear. They're like, oh, yeah, but you played a part in this, right? Like, this has everything to do with your behaviors.
Yeah, these are results of your actions.
Right.
Right. I
Yeah.
can't see that.
They're not out to get you.
Well,
Because
you
you're
did it.
sober.
Right.
So you're like, I'm doing the right thing.
Correct.
I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. I was 22 when I got locked up, right? And as far as I could tell, if I just don't get high or don't drink, then I'm doing everything right.
I'm doing everything right.
Yeah.
I'm passing
Right.
the test.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that was the first point at which I started to understand, like, oh no, this is
I have a
largely based off of how you behave.
I have a flawed character. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I get out of jail. I go to Homeless Solutions in Morristown, which is a shelter, right? And I call my buddy who I had met in jail, and he got out about 6 months before I did. And when he was leaving, he said, if you want to stay sober, let me know when you get out of here. I'll be doing the right thing. So I call this guy up, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm scared to death. This is the first time that I've ever had a little bit of clean time. I don't know what to do, and I don't want to drink again, but I'm going crazy, right? I'm like, what do you do? And he's like, I go to AA. And I start laughing, and I'm like, dude, get the fuck out of here.
Which is
bro.
crazy because you had been in jail where there's AA a treatment center where there's AA,
Drug
and then
court
a
where there's
halfway
AA.
house where, I mean, I got sober in a recovery house. I know a halfway house that's like state stipulated is a little different, but I would assume where there's AA.
Of course.
There's AA everywhere
Yep. Everywhere.
throughout the whole process, right?
But to you, that was extracurricular activities.
Well, no, that's just good behavior to get time off of your
Yeah.
sentence, right?
Yeah.
Like, or to get movement, right? Like,
Yeah.
I need to get off of the cell block, so I'm going to go to the meeting tonight, but I don't care about the meeting,
Right.
Right? I just need to get some movement. And so he's like, yeah, I go to AA. And I'm like, dude, what? I was like, we just do that in jail. He's like,
Yeah.
no, I go to AA. And he's like, unless you have something better for us to do, I'm going to keep doing this because it's been working.
Yeah.
And he was like, if you want, I'll come pick you up, though. Now, I came home, I was like 24. I got 6 felonies. I got no work experience, no GED. I have nothing. I have like 2 outfits.
You
right?
got nothing to do. Yeah.
At all.
And
Yeah.
nothing.
I'm in a homeless shelter with 90 guys.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll go to AA. Right? And so he starts bringing me to these meetings, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to do it. Like, I have nothing else. My scorecard read 0, like the literature talks about, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I approach this guy and I say, hey, Tony, will you sponsor me? And God rest his soul, Tony was great, man. He helped a lot of guys, me being one of them.
Why did you pick him as your sponsor?
Because he was the most sober guy that I could see.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. He had what you wanted, or he had what you think you needed to want. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no,
Right.
Tony used to sit up at the front of the room, and he was the guy who was like, if you haven't done these steps, don't talk about these steps. Like, if I want to know how to drink, I'll ask you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that was the sponsor that I needed.
Yeah.
Right? And
So
I said,
funny how God puts that in your life,
every
like
time.
when you needed it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you could have had a sponsor. I'm not trying to say that like anyone's a bad sponsor, right?
Yeah, of course.
But there are sponsors that draw this thing out a little bit more than others, and there are other sponsors
Yeah,
that
there's
are
some-
strictly business.
Some are
right?
better than others.
Like
that's
I
all.
had a strictly business sponsor. He was like, "I'm not here to be your fucking friend. I'm here to get you through the first 164 pages of this book."
Right.
And like we became friends in the process, obviously, as alcoholics do. But like he was like, "Call me as it relates to this."
That's it.
That's why that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Everything else is stupid, you know? Like, and that was what I needed when I needed it, because it was the time where I was the most willing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, I can so relate to that. Like, that was my experience with Tony.
Yeah.
I asked him to sponsor
like
me. He
it.
said no. He was like, I don't think you're serious. He was like, if you follow me around for 4 weeks, go to 3 meetings of my choosing, show up early, help set up, stay late, break down the meeting, help with the coffee, right? If you do that, then I'll sponsor you. Right? And that was what I did. And I followed him around and he sponsored me. And like, I get to my first step and he's like, do you understand what your problem is? And I'm like, yeah, alcohol and drugs. He was like, no, kid. Alcohol and drugs is your solution. And he starts to break down things to me for the first time ever. Right? And he's like, do you understand that your problems really start where the bottle ends? Right? And that you're crazier without a drink or a drug than you are with a drink or a drug. That's why you pick up again, right?
Right. Sure.
All the stuff we were talking about in the beginning, right? And he explains to me like what it means to have a 2-part step 1, right? I'm powerless and the unmanageability factor, right? Like I can't manage my emotional nature. I can't manage my relationships. I can't manage any area of my life. And therefore I need a new manager, right? And that's where step 2 comes into play.
Of course.
Right? Like he explains all this stuff to me in great detail. And then we get to step 3 and I'm like, Tony, what does this even mean? Turn my will and my life over.
Over the care of God, yeah.
I don't understand what we're talking about.
Well, it does
here.
seem silly when you first look at it.
Yeah, and he tells me, he's like, you would never be able to understand
To
this.
conceptualize that.
Yeah, he's like, unless you do the rest of the steps, you'll never understand what this is about.
We were just talking about this on our last episode. I was like, 1, 2, and 3 hit so much harder post 5. You know? Like they really do.
Yeah.
Like they really actually start to make sense after you've started to do some work on yourself. Because in the beginning, I'm just nodding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
that's the best I can do
Yeah, you're just
with
agreeing.
those words.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the best I can do is
Yeah,
nod.
absolutely.
Well, we get to step 4 and like, step 4 was just probably one of the most pivotal points in my whole life.
Of course.
That's a tough step.
Well, I wasn't even tough for me because I burned everybody so bad, and I was like on the front page of papers enough times where it was like everybody knew the deal.
Yeah.
Jig was up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not hiding anything. Everybody knows that I've been a scumbag for a lot of years now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But what happened for me is I start to look at things through a new lens, right? And I start to have a new perspective on life itself. And it's, you know, that saying, I can't change the past, but I can change the way I look at it, right? And that starts to happen for me. And I start to do some significant work on my 4-step and really look at my relationships, my behaviors, my character defects, start to understand like the patterns that I've been exhibiting and why everything has turned out the way it has, and that I've had my fingerprints over all of this stuff, right?
The whole time.
Yeah. And there's not one area in my life that like I can't say I at least played some part, right?
Well, it hits you like a ton of bricks. Wouldn't you say that post 5 is like, to me, that was the white light moment?
Yeah.
That was my first real interaction with God.
But then there were some moments in my when writing my 4-step where I'm like, I don't have a part in this. You know, like I ain't asked to be born.
Right.
You know, like my mom.
Well, you have deep-seated resentments.
Oh yeah, I mean lifelong narratives.
As did I. Like, and it took me a while to even realize that they were there. But like, it seems like your story, your foundation was resentment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, I didn't do anything to make this happen, right? Like, I was a kid. I didn't play any role in this. And I remember getting to that part in the 4th column of my 4-step because we used the worksheets, which was like a four-column worksheet for each one. And I remember thinking like, I found the loophole. You know, like this is where AA is wrong and I'm right, and here's justified anger and justified resentment.
Took
right?
your responsibility away.
Right, yeah. And my sponsor, Tony, was like, yeah, kid, first off, your part is forgiveness. He was like, if it's nothing else, it's always forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
Like if you truly had no part in it, it's forgiveness. That's your part. Secondly, he's like, do you understand that based off of your mother's conditioning, her life experience, the way she was raised, that the question is not how could she have done this to you, but how could she have not?
Yeah.
Right? And once we went through all of that in like real thorough detail, it was, again, not a question of how could she have done this, but how could she have not?
Yeah.
And once you get to that point with any relationship, it's like, oh, okay. She did the best she could with what she had. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, I could do to my children what she did to me if I'm not careful about this shit, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like years of hatred, resentment, anger, despair, like all of the whole narrative that I had created my whole lifetime was washed away.
Wow.
You know, I was so liberated, man. You know, and you can kind of extrapolate off of that onto the 9th step, but you know, and so I do my 5th step, and kind of 6 and 7 are very short in the big book, and you know, we use the 12 and 12 as supplemental content for that. And
Absolutely.
I'll be honest with you, the first go around, like 6 and 7 was more academic than anything else. I kind of just checked it off and was like, all right, I'm ready to make amends now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I still had
6
some
and 7.
serious defects, but
Of
whatever.
course.
We're going to move on, you know, because I'm ready for it. And I get to my 8th step, and Tony has me get these index cards. And I get these index cards, and I write down, again, Tony was very militant about the way we did things, and I needed that. You write down the person concerned on one side. On the back side, you write down the first portion of this was to tell the person what I'm trying to do and ask them if they're okay with it.
Yeah.
Right? Because I have no right to just like spring an amends on somebody.
Shotgun it in your face.
course.
Yeah, right?
It helps you, but it doesn't help them.
And it's just not fair to do
Right.
that, right? And then the second part of it, if they were willing to hear the amends, is listing great detail what I've done, acknowledge my wrongs, right? Like you need to put some time into this, and I need to realize like, hey, like I've caused real harm here. I'm acknowledging it. And then the third part of it was asking if I've forgotten anything, which I most of the time did forget stuff because I was almost always under the influence.
Yeah.
And then, and the fourth and the final part of the note card was to ask them what I could do to correct this.
And hear them. Yeah.
Right. And like, I
Yeah.
need to correct this, right? Like, I'm not here to say sorry. I mean, that might come up at some point, right? Naturally. But
I will never forget when my sponsor said to me, "You're not saying sorry. You've said sorry a million times and it means nothing. You're owning your side of the street and doing what you can to make it better.
Clean it
If
up.
there's anything you can do, because they may tell you to fuck off, which some have.
Oh, yeah.
Some have. You know what I mean? That gets you close to God too. Yeah, it does. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. But I'll tell you one thing, like when I'm writing out these note cards, and I'm grateful that I didn't lump 8 and 9 together and that I allowed each one to be its own step, because as I'm writing out these note cards, I'm crying.
Oh man.
Because I haven't quite forgiven myself for a lot of this stuff.
Right.
And I remember talking to my sponsor about it, and he's like, Anthony, if you haven't forgiven yourself, we're not making these amends. Because you have no right to go to this person, approach them, and then just fall apart. Because that's selfish. You will make this amends all about you again, right? And you will hijack the whole experience and steal from them, right? So I did a lot of praying, you know, for willingness to forgive myself, to forgive the other person involved in some cases, right?
Yeah.
And then I went out and I made the amends. And, you know, I have such a limited vantage point, right? I'm going to make amends to certain people, and I think it's about one thing, and it's about something that's way bigger.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember I had stolen money from my aunt and my uncle. And I go to make the amends to them, and I slide the $300 across the table that I had stolen from them. And they look at me and they go, Anthony, we don't care about your money. This was never about money, because their son had died from alcohol DTs on a jail cell floor.
They seize up and die.
He seized up, his heart just gave out.
Right.
And he died on his 43rd birthday.
Wow.
Left 5 kids behind.
Oh
My
man.
God.
Because he could never stop drinking, right? And large part, it was negligence of the jail he was in, right? And they ended up getting sued and whatever. The jail lost the lawsuit and had to pay out money and stuff like that. But regardless, they were like, this isn't about money. They were like, we just want to know that our son didn't die in vain.
Oh man.
Right? Like, we just want to know that somebody's out here trying to help the next sick person. And we just hope that you're that person, right? And like, you know, I still well up thinking about that, right?
Yeah,
because
That's powerful.
But to me, it's just, here's your $300. Here's the amends.
Yeah. Check.
Right,
Yeah.
check.
Yep.
Check. Yeah.
But I don't even understand, like, but it's experiences like that bring me back into humanity, right? And make me realize that there's so much more to this, you know? I went and made amends to my mom, and I told her that I know that she did the best she could with what she had, and I know that if I had similar circumstances to her, I could easily do to my children what she did to me. Mm-hmm. And I know that she did the best she could, and that she loved my sisters and I, and that I appreciated her. And like, you know, I had this very heartfelt moment with her, which was probably one of the most important times in my life.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And, you know, a few months after that, man, she passed away, you know? So like, I would have never had that experience if it wasn't for this process.
Of course.
You know?
And it showed up right when it was supposed to.
The closure and everything was just right on time, you know? And then for me, 10, 11, and 12 are maintenance and growth steps, right? Like,
Sometimes you got to go back, brother.
yeah.
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 I know I do.
I do an annual.
You run through 12 every year?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's like every 18 months, you know?
Yeah.
Life
I
gets
think
a
for
little
me, it's like
crazy.
every 2.5 to 3.
Yeah.
Which I should probably take a step out of your book, because I grow so resentful. You know what I mean? That's
hear
what
ya.
it is, dude. It just festers within me. And I was talking about this the other day with Vin. Like, I know it's my time to get some medicine when the people around me all seem pretty unhappy with the way that I'm acting, you know?
Sure.
Dude, I got a couple more amends story. Or how are we doing on time?
Yeah,
good.
time's good, brother.
Okay. I don't want to forget to talk about these, because these are some of like the the full circle moments that we come across in this process. You know, I in 2015, I was offered a scholarship to take the certified recovery specialist class or training, right? And it was the first one that they had ever offered in New Jersey. And so I got scholarshiped into this thing. I took it. I ended up getting employed by a recovery center in Rockaway. And they were bringing meetings into the jail, into Morris County Jail, right? And I had to go through this background check. And, you know, to volunteer in a jail, it's a whole thing. Mm-hmm. And they were going to let me do it. And then I got flagged. And I was like, what is this about, right?
You're a felon.
You know, well, it wasn't even that. They were cool with that. They were like, all right, you're uniquely positioned to help people in here because you've been here and you've turned it around, right? And so they were cool with that part. But they were like, there's somebody that volunteers here every once in a while that you've robbed. And I was like, what? I'm like, I didn't rob anybody here. What are you talking about?
The chaplain?
It was the chaplain.
How about that?
Right? And I was like, who is it? And they were like, yeah, it's somebody like you actually went to court. This was a real charge. I was like, what? And then I thought about it. I was like, oh my gosh, it's the victim. And
It's the chaplain.
but I got this amends letter that I had written
For him.
for him. And it's just been sitting in my book bag for like 6 months or however long. And I had no way to get in touch with this guy, right? And I told the officer who was doing my background check, I'm like, dude, I don't even care if you guys let me volunteer here, but could you please give this man this letter? And they were like, we're not really sure if we're allowed to do that. So they checked with their superiors. They got it approved. They read the letter, made sure it was appropriate. And I ended up writing this guy this letter about basically how he saved my life. You know what I mean? And like what's happened since then. And he wrote me a letter back. And then he also told the jail, like, it's fine if he volunteers here. Like, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting to volunteer there and like made that amends because I was basically trying to show up and volunteer and give back, right? Like, it's, I mean, the way that things work are just, so then
What a great story.
I end up like fast forward a little bit of time. I end up meeting this awesome woman who is a normie. She's an earthling, right? She doesn't know what it's
Not
like
one of us.
Yeah. And she and I ended up getting married, and you know, I can kind of get into that a little bit, but one day my wife and I are sitting there, we're newly married, and we had like no money. I think we had saved up like, I don't know, $20,000, let's say, right?
Yeah.
And we have a new baby, right? We have a 6-month-old baby. And I get a call from my grandma. And my grandma is the same grandma that I almost lost her house because I messed up the bail conditions, right? Grandma calls me and she's like, hey, Anthony, we're going to lose the house. You know, your grandfather has cancer and the medical debt's a little overwhelming. So basically your childhood house is going to be gone. I just wanted to call and let you know. And I talked to my wife, and my wife and I contemplated it, and we came up with a plan. We were able to buy my grandma's house, pay off the medical debt, and have my grandmother and my grandfather live with us till their end days, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, the same people that were always there for me.
You were able to show up for them.
I was able to show up for them after all those years of them showing up for me. And, like, I got to be the one to change my grandfather's diaper when he was on hospice.
Yeah.
You know, like, when he couldn't walk and couldn't make it to the bathroom, I was the one who carried him. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just, dude, you know, words fail sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Words fail. And I got to have all these cool experiences as a direct result of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I got sober when I was 22. I had no idea how to live. And, like, the men in Alcoholics Anonymous and the women, like, taught me how to live.
Dude,
And
they
it
put
gave
you
me
on
a
their
design
back
for
and
living.
carried you
Yeah.
through this thing. It's such a gift, dude.
It's the most amazing thing ever. And you know, so I get this certified recovery specialist training done, right? And I'm like, all right, what am I going to do with this thing?
Yeah.
And like a year later, Somerset County is hiring for a recovery specialist, right?
Like to put in the hospitals?
It was through their community mental health department.
Okay.
But similar, right? And so I go and I interview, And, you know, it was like maybe 2016 or something like that, 2017. I forget what year it was, but I go and interview, and the clinical director is like, Anthony, you're hired. Like, I absolutely believe that you would be able to help a lot of people. You have a great story. Like, you know your way around recovery. Like, you'll be able to help. She's like, but just to let you know, when you go to do your fingerprints at the sheriff's department for your background check, your application's going to get rejected. She's like, I'm just telling you that on the front end. She's like, but, you know, you can always try to appeal it, but you're hired as far as us clinically.
Right.
So I go do my background check. They were like, they called me. They're like, are you slow?
Right.
You have
You
6
serious?
felonies, dude.
Right.
Do you want to work for the government?
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, yeah, I do. And they were like, no. And so I appealed their decision, and they actually granted me a meeting with the county commissioners and some of like the director of HR for the county and all this stuff. And so I sat down with them, and I was like, all right, well, what do you guys want to know? They're like, tell us everything from the top. So basically I just told them the story that I just told you.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, well, we need about a week or two to determine whether or not like we can accept you. So like you'll hear back from us when a determination is made. I'm walking out into the parking garage. It's like 10 minutes later, I get a call on my phone. It's the director of HR. She's like, this is the quickest decision that we've ever made, but you're hired.
Nice.
Right? Like,
yeah.
And again, all this stuff is just like, it's not me, right? It's just doing what was suggested to me and trusting the process.
And accepting the outcome no matter what
it.
it is.
And
you know
the
what I
other
mean?
part is, yeah, you have this background. It's in your past. But you, like, I tell people, look, yeah, I've been arrested plenty of times, but I've been sober for 39 years.
Right.
So that's got to account for something.
That's got it.
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Definitely.
Like, what do you want to go back to 86,
Yeah.
85, 84? Like, come on, man. It's got to amount for something.
Yeah.
And your sober time, you had space between those 6 felonies and the meeting you had with that board of commissioners. It has to mean something. You're not just getting out of jail and applying for this job. You had space. You had time to work on yourself. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's men like you that came before me that showed me the way, you know, and all I had to do was show up and just accept whatever the outcome was going to be, right?
Take the suggestion.
Yeah.
It's
That's
so
right.
it's
simple, but it's not always
we
easy.
make it so hard.
It's not
but
always
it's so
easy, but it is
dude.
simple.
It is simple.
Just do what I tell you to do. Period.
Yeah.
I used to tell people all the time, like, will you just do what I tell you to do? And I promise you, you'll get the same results.
Yeah.
But you have to do what I tell you to do. And sometimes they did, and sometimes they didn't.
Sometimes
and it's
they
the same
don't.
thing with my work. You know, like I represented, 600,000 people. Like, if you do what I tell you to do, when they call me, when they have an addiction problem, just do what I tell you to do, and do everything that the treatment center tells you to do, and you'll come out of this on the other side, and you'll have a good foundation. But you got to do what we tell you to do, because your way ain't working.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the greatest things that ever happened to me was just being as broken as I was and just as open as the dying can be, right? Like, I was as open-minded as the dying could possibly be, and therefore, like, I was willing to do whatever you told me to do. And
I couldn't agree with you more. When I got sober, I had less than nothing. Like, I had negative. I had negative life. You know what I mean? I owed life back to others.
Yeah, of course.
And when I see men and women who are thinking about trying to get sober or trying to get sober, and they're reaching out and they're hanging on to the pieces of life that they have left, whether that be their family or their job. Sometimes it's a fucking vacation. You ever have a guy who wants to come in to treat me? He's like, yeah, but I'm going to Turks and Caicos on the 15th. I'm like, brother, there's no way.
Sam,
like,
I've had people like, I got a nail appointment next week.
buddy, that's what I'm
Exactly.
saying.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
I have
so
my kids
much
this
harder.
weekend. Can we go Monday?
Yeah.
All right. If you know.
And I more often than not say to people, I find this a lot easier when you've already lost everything.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And you may have to lose everything to hear what I'm saying to you. You know what I mean? Which sucks. Because you could just listen to me right now and take these suggestions as they're outlined here, and you're going to fucking have a great life.
Yeah.
But because of nail appointments,
I had
jobs,
Yeah.
Quinceañeras. Fucking dude. They hang on to that shit, that normalcy for dear life. And the sacrifices, they don't get to experience exactly what you just told me about over the last course of an hour. They have to go rob a guy at a fucking ATM to get there. You know what I mean?
Bro, I had this one guy recently, actually, who was the best man at his best friend's wedding. He said, I'll go in after the wedding. It happened to be a Sunday that they got married on. I'll go in on Monday or Tuesday. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I make these suggestions and hopefully you follow them. Then he calls me back. He's like, I'd like to go in Sunday afternoon, right after the ceremony. No reception, no nothing. But he made that commitment to his friend to be the best man. So I was like, look, that's pretty noble. Let's do that.
I mean, listen.
And he did. It was only like 2 days later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he did the Sunday best man. He entered treatment like before sundown.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it really worked out. But yeah, people come up with a lot of excuses, but that was a pretty good one.
I
And it
feel
was
like
only
for
a couple days
lot
later,
of people,
you know?
Yeah, but like at the end of the road, no one would allow you to be their best man. You know what I mean?
The end of my road, yeah.
No way.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it depends on
No,
your
God
road.
willing, he
Your
goes and he
road
listens.
is different than other people's roads.
Absolutely.
You know, maybe you weren't best man material when you were, sitting in a jail cell. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who don't make it to jail. They work every day. They live, okay lives aside from the alcoholism, and like this guy happened to be best man material from a guy he was friends with for 40 years. I mean,
but I'm saying like those guys, if they show up and they're like, hey, you're completely broken unless you take all these suggestions, and they do it, like the guy who is best man material that does surrender and do it, that's fucking rare. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
That guy's 1 in a million if he does that.
dude,
Because
it
more
doesn't-
often
they
than
don't
not,
always take all the suggestions all at once.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes they have to repeat the process a little bit.
few times,
but,
right.
Hopefully they get it in the end.
absolutely.
All
Yeah.
we could do is put it out there for them.
My second sponsor, because my first sponsor too, Tony, when I finished the 12 steps, he was like, all right, that's it. I'm done with you. Like,
Yeah.
go sponsor, guys. That's it.
He was like, fuck off, don't call me.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to go sponsor new guys. Like, you should do the same, But my second sponsor, he was general counsel for one of the biggest chemical production companies in the world.
How about that?
Right. And he got sober. I mean, I'm talking about in the 80s, he was making like $15-20 million a year.
Holy shit.
Right? Like with bonuses and everything else. And he tried to hang himself in his duplex on Park Ave in New York.
Yeah.
Right? Like he was best man material, right? Like he owned multiple properties. Like he was the life of the party and everything. But he was so dead on the inside that like he was willing to take any suggestion.
Yeah. And it worked out for him.
And it worked out, yeah.
No, and I see that from time to time. I guess I just...
Absolutely. It was like the last podcast that we did when I started talking about being rich. Like, I'm rich, but it has nothing to do with money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It has everything to do with family and the feeling you have inside. It's like sobriety, the feeling of being sober. The feeling of being rich is when I leave here, I'm going to go get lunch and then drive back to my house in South Jersey and hang out with my family. My kids will be over. They're older now, they'll be over for dinner and I'll watch the football game with them, whatever. And that's being rich.
Yeah.
Not $15 million almost hanging myself on Park Avenue. That's being, like you said, dead inside, empty inside. But it's the furthest thing from being rich that you could actually point to.
Yeah. I mean, I come home, man, and my daughters run to the door to see me. And, they're that age where, like, they're still excited about...
It's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
the
walking
best
in,
thing
just
ever.
you walking in the door.
Yeah, and, like, I have the opportunity now to coach my daughter's wrestling team. Like, all this stuff was not in the cards, man. Like, I have a wife who loves me that I, like, cherish and adore. And, like, like, I treat her right, man. You know what I mean? These weren't things that I saw growing up. And all of this stuff was taught to me in AA.
Mm-hmm. Did she ever see you impaired?
No.
Okay,
No.
that's same with my wife. We've been married 32 years, and she's never
It's amazing.
never seen me impaired, either of any of my kids.
I mean, shout out to my wife. She met me when I was sober and then saw me impaired.
really?
Oh, yeah. I met my wife sober picked up almost 2 years continuous sobriety. Sophia was born, and then I picked up. And in the 4 months I picked up, I managed to get us evicted from our apartment, like everything. And she had no idea what this looked like. Yeah. Shout out to you, to my beautiful wife, Samantha, for sticking by me through all that. Yeah.
Samantha,
Big shout out.
Big
shout
out
out to
Samantha.
you.
Although
Yeah.
she doesn't believe in saints, she's Jewish, but
Yeah.
Saint Samantha. I
She
say the same
does.
thing about
Yeah.
my wife, Saint
Yeah,
Christine.
like an angel, dude.
Definitely. But listen, man, this was,
Buddy.
I had a great time.
Your story
listening to
touched
you.
me. Yeah.
You got a great story,
Brother,
man.
guys.
unbelievable.
Really
I mean, I was like
appreciate it.
speechless the whole time. You know what I mean?
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
I
but
appreciate
very
it.
compelling. And I know you're going to help a lot of people, because a lot of people around the world actually listen to us. We're still a free podcast, you know, and your story is going to resonate with people. I know it. I can feel it. And, you know, I just wanted to let everybody know you're listening to Tenacious Recovery, the podcast. And my name is Vinny. I'm an alcoholic and an addict.
And I'm Sam. I'm an alcoholic and an addict.
And I'm Anthony. I'm an alcoholic and an addict.
And we appreciate you, brother. God willing, see you all soon.